I've never seen anybody do that before. Be an on-camera presence on one hand and also know the media stuff.
You will go as far as your storytelling ability to take what is a sport that would appeal to X percentage of the audience, turn that into a story that appeals to most, if not all, the audience. And I think that's what ended up separating me from other people was the storytelling aspect. When someone trusts you with their story, that is an amazing feeling. And if you look back on the things I accomplished in sports, the awards and the recognition I got, it wasn't for being the best anchor or for doing good highlights. It was for feature stories.
Welcome back to the NEI Pioneer Podcast. This podcast showcases and shares the people and the stories of Northeast Indiana. Zach serves as media executive and lifestyle host at Fort Wayne's 21 Alive news station. Before spending the last decade at 21 Alive, Zach got his start in sports broadcasting back in high school. Then after college, landed in North Carolina and Illinois, building his career and experience in storytelling. In this episode, Zach shares about the early days of his career, what he's learned about himself and the industry along the way, and he even goes on to share some of his most impactful and hilarious stories that he's covered. All that and more in today's episode. Take it away, Jonathan.
Zach Groth.
Hey.
I'm so happy to have you here, and I just love it that the tables have turned, and now I get to interview you. And today we're also joined by
Brice Vance,
my right-hand man.
I used to cover sports with Zach.
Yeah, got a couple washed-up sports guys cutting it up today.
Yeah.
How long did you guys work together, by the way?
Well, we didn't work together. We both covered sports, and we'll get into Zach's history covering sports. He did it for a long time, a little bit longer than I did.
So we overlapped 6-7 years.
Okay, yep.
Had to throw that in.
Yeah,
Is that true?
Yeah, I was about 6 years when I was covering sports for KPC, and he's been at 21 for a decade plus now. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and is that your media executive and lifestyle host? Is that correct?
Yeah, so last summer I made the switch. I stepped out of the newsroom, wasn't doing sports anymore, and wanted to give sales a shot. I work on our sales staff, but they let me feed my ego a little bit. I still get to go on TV, do the sponsored segments, those business spotlights. You've done one of them with me.
Uh-huh.
It was cool at the Pioneer Awards this year. A few of the winners had already done segments with me, and I took full credit for all of their success because they had recently done interviews with me.
I'll tell you something. So let's, before we get into your experience at 21 and all the great things that you've done there, the Pioneer event, that's the first one you've been to?
First time I've seen it. It was awesome. This is where we get to feed your ego because you've done a really good job with that.
And it's my birthday.
Yeah, we are recording this on his birthday. I don't know which camera to look into, but yeah, so congratulations, happy birthday. We're celebrating with the champagne socks.
Of course we are.
Yeah.
21 has been so good to us, and Chris Fidel over there, the GM, just great people. So we completely appreciate you guys. So let's talk about you.
Okay, let's do it.
And then we'll feed my ego somewhere throughout the conversation.
Can we give Brice a few crumbs here and there?
Yeah,
too,
let's give him one right now.
All right, Brice, you have a lovely beard.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so journalism.
Yes.
How did you get into this? So you're growing up in Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Going back to even 8th grade, start of high school, I really wanted to do play-by-play back then. I got into Griffin Television at Lincoln Way East High School, and from my freshman year, I was calling football and basketball. None of it was live, and I wasn't very good, but we would do this pre-taped, and it would go on the local community channel in Frankfort. So I was getting those reps from an early age, and that kind of fed the passion and the drive and all that. And as I went to college, I realized more how difficult the play-by-play path was, and I just really had no idea how to start on that. So that's when it kind of changed more to sports reporting and anchoring and doing TV from sports within news. And still did a little bit of play-by-play on the side in college. It's crazy looking back on it because Big Ten has the Student U program they do on a lot of their campuses. I'm sure it's all of them now. And I was getting to do some basketball games. And looking back on that, I mean, I did a game where Taylor Rooks was my courtside reporter. She's a massive star now.
Yeah,
I did a game
Amazon Prime
where I did play-by-play and Jamal Collier did the color. He's an ESPN reporter now. So I'm going through this journey and realizing, oh, these people are way more talented than me. So I got to figure out, like, if I'm going to make this work, you got to make sure that you hone your skills and you really grind at it, because the natural charisma and intellect and just the camera presence, that's something that at the time I thought I was pretty good, but it's something that I definitely needed to work on as the career went on.
It's funny because, one of my business partners is Jamal Mashburn. We've talked about that. When he went to work for ESPN, he hated it. He hated it. And he said the producers were always trying to tell him what to say. And he's like, I know basketball. I think I can handle this. And he said that that was the worst part of the gig, is somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about trying to tell him what to say.
Yeah, because you can fake it to a point, right?
Well, let me ask it this way. What was your best sport what do you think the best sport that you're most knowledgeable in?
Baseball.
Really?
100%. I know strategy in baseball. I know the ins and outs of baseball just because I've always played some form of it.
Okay.
And I was never a good basketball player. Brice can attest to that. And
neither's he.
I never played organized football. Brice is surprisingly agile.
No, I know that. I know that.
We don't need to get into any of those stories, but
we can later.
Okay.
Let's get into Brice's agility. We're going to call the show.
We've talked about how I was in the ballet on this show before, but
what?
As a joke. So.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, is this where we link to a past episode at a time code? Yeah.
No, I've mentioned that I've been on the stage at the embassy before, uncompletely related, and then they,
ballet.
Joked that I was on the ballet.
Could that be the thumbnail for this video? Just you in a tutu? Or?
No.
Okay.
No, that's a different video.
But I've always heard from play-by-play guys that baseball is one of the hardest to do because you're filling so much time in between the plays. And I imagine if you were trying to jump into play-by-play and that's the sport that you love and can do the most, it's got to be the most challenging to try to jump into right away.
Yeah, it's a lot of storytelling.
Yeah.
It's a lot of researching different things about the players beforehand, because if you don't have enough material in your back pocket, you're going to run out and it's going to be a lot of dead air or just a lot of repetition that gets tiring over time. And that's why looking at some of the baseball talent, and this is a bit of a tangent, but Fort Wayne has had some remarkable play-by-play voices come through this city. John Nolan, who's now the radio voice of the Fever, worked with the Tin Caps for a long time. The Tin Caps alone, Mike Monaco's a rising star doing ESPN, NESN. Those people who forged their skills working with the Tin Caps and having to figure that out, having to develop their own style and routine, it's very cool to see these sports journeys in media that start in Fort Wayne and branch out to these incredible places.
See, it seems like with when you're doing play-by-play, which I want to stick on for a couple minutes, is that you've got to have a team, I'm assuming, supporting you, right? Aren't they coming up and handing you stuff and saying, here's the background stories and that, or do you have to do that on your own?
As you move up, I would assume so. I never got that far, really.
So you have to do it all yourself?
When you're doing it as a college kid on a student production, most of that's coming from you.
Wow. Okay. And is there somebody that you really look up to that you think can do the play-by-play better than anybody? And I'll tell you, my favorite one is Al Michaels.
Al Michaels, I think, if you're going back a generation or two.
Yeah,
he was the standard.
Because I always take him from Miracle,
time.
Right? They actually used his soundtrack in the movie.
It's one of the most iconic sports calls of all time.
Yeah.
Do you believe miracles? I think a lot of people, Al included, would admit that he's probably not as good now as he was then. If you watch some of those Amazon games, you can tell it just kind of sounds like he's bored at times. Yeah. I think he's earned that.
I think he's earned his boredom.
Man, I'm trying to think. Ian Eagle is so good.
Yeah,
I love any time that he's on a game.
Like Mike Tirico is
Tirico's
probably one
great.
of the best.
I think if you just want a big moment, Gus Johnson, he can overdo it at times. But I think that if you want whatever the biggest game possible, if you want it to live up to the hype, Gus Johnson would be one of those people I'd put up there.
For you growing up, like who was the ones who was the one that you were looking up to do? I mean, I'm trying to think of during that time while you're going to school. Obviously, I know you're a Cubs fan, so like Len Casper was on WGN, Harry Carey before that. I mean, probably didn't want to follow that path, but
no, and I was too young to really appreciate
Will
Harry.
Ferrell. Yeah.
I'd say the Cubs radio broadcast team, Pat Hughes and Ron Santo, were kind of the formative voices of my childhood, where Pat Hughes is still doing it. He is still amazing, but Ron towed that line where he was definitely a homer. But you could just see he cared so much about every little thing that happened, and he watched some awful Cubs teams during that time. We
Oh,
were
yeah.
so bad during those years.
Mm-hmm.
So to see someone who could carry that passion and day in and day out, covering teams that won 60 or 70 games, that was. And I didn't intend to do another 6-7 there, but
I think you're being generous.
Yeah.
Fort Wayne.
Mhm.
What got you here? Because you were in North Carolina.
Yes.
Right? Okay, you went from Illinois to North Carolina.
The path was after in 2013 I graduate, look for jobs for a few months, end up in Naperville. And this was great experience, really formative for my career, especially for my work behind the camera because I had some really strong mentors there. Pay wasn't great. Started off, I think, $10 an hour part-time. And then
Really?
eventually I got promoted full-time and was making slightly more than that. But, I mean, Brice is aware of this. The starting salary in sports reporting is not good.
You better have passion.
Yeah, you need it
Yeah.
because you're not going to survive otherwise. So I was commuting from 45 minutes away to do that job from another suburb. Thankfully I could still stay at my parents' house while I was doing that. And then I stumble into a job in Charlotte, North Carolina. So big jump, still not making the best salary to kind of set up myself in the long term. But that experience was really helpful. The station was willing to do a lot of things that other stations wouldn't in terms of opportunities for someone who was 23 and then 24 years old. I got to cover NASCAR. I got to be on the sideline shooting Carolina Panthers football games. I did a one-on-one interview with Kemba Walker after he scored 52 points in a game. So for someone who really needed the experience and really needed to hone his skills, it was awesome. And then by the end of the year, other people had so much vacation time accumulated that they had to put me on to anchor sports. So I got even more reps doing that.
Winner
And-
by default.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
whatever works, man.
Hey, and it was, again, another great mentor. Anthony Flores was the sports director at the time. He saw that I was busting my ass willing to go cover things and be there, and I got rewarded with opportunity. And it led to me getting the sports director job here at 24 years old.
Wow.
Today's episode is brought to you by Grace College. Grace is one of our region's most popular liberal arts colleges. Let me tell you a few reasons why. First of all, it's located in the picturesque town of Winona Lake. Second of all, Grace values excellence in the classroom as well as providing mentorship to help build confidence outside of the classroom. They offer over 100 academic programs as well as a 17-to-1 student-faculty ratio. Number 3, it's just down the street from the orthopedic capital of the world. They offer both accelerated and master's programs in orthopedics to help fuel the growing economy of Warsaw. Number 4, Grace is also known for their faith-centered community. They facilitate and encourage growth in your personal faith journey. Just to recap, if you're looking for a close-knit, faith-centered community to pursue a higher education in a picturesque town, then look no further than Grace College. If you want to learn more about Grace, be sure to check out the links in the description below. But for now, let's jump back into the episode.
So through this process, got married.
Yeah, I met Hannah, my wife, here in Fort Wayne in 2017. So the job brought me here, and it was something where you sign a 3-year contract. The thought as a young mid-20-something is I'll work one contract here and then move on to the next big city. Life changes.
Yeah.
You meet someone, you fall in love, you get married, and the radius of places I was willing to move to shrunk, where if I was ever going to leave Fort Wayne, it was going to have to be like a top 30, top 25 market and a job that I was really comfortable with. And that does limit your opportunities, and over time you learn what your priorities are. And it gets to a point where, okay, my wife and I love living here. Do we want to leave? Do I want to continue down sports forever? Am I going to make enough money doing this to kind of set up my family and my life the way I wanted? And eventually we got to a point where it was time to make a change.
What was the conscious, or was it not a conscious decision to go from, I'm going to spread myself to both sides of the business? I've never seen anybody do that before. Split and be an on-camera presence on one hand, and also know the media stuff to be, in account management, sales, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was the decision there?
Well, the last couple of years when I was working in sports, I was kind of trying to figure out what was next. And I loved working at the station.
It seems like you guys have a great atmosphere there.
We have some wonderful people.
Yeah.
It's a great place to go into work. So I wasn't ready to just say, okay, well, I'm done doing sports, so I'm just done here. So I looked into a few different things. I looked at possibly pivoting to be a news anchor, pivoting to sales, and we had changed the structure of our sponsored segments. We used to have a show that was just dedicated to that. Now we have these segments that are built into newscasts. So there's a lot more flexibility in saying, hey, I have these skills. Mm-hmm. If you guys are willing to put me on camera still, makes a lot of sense that, especially for the clients that are working with me, why don't I just host those? So it was a fit that it made a lot of sense. It checked a lot of boxes, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, you've been in the studio with me. You do this. You know how cool and how fulfilling these conversations can be when you really dig in and find out people's why. I mean, that's what you're bringing to NEI, right? The storytelling is a big thing you wanted to show here. It all comes down to people and their stories, right?
It does.
Along those same lines, what does like storytelling mean to you? Because obviously, like you and I both, while in sports, probably, you know, other than covering the games on a daily basis, and that's kind of just, you're kind of sometimes a little bit like on autopilot. You know what you're doing
it's your
here
bread
and there.
Butter,
yeah, but like those feature stories are kind of what keep you going, and like, oh, what's the next story that I can find that's going to be a little more in depth, have a little bit more feel to it, and have some heart behind it. Those are, I mean, what does storytelling, you know, overall mean to you?
And I think that's what ended up separating me from other people that have worked here, was the storytelling aspect. And I don't think I realized the value of it at the beginning of my career, but as it went on, that's where the real passion is, because it's awesome if you cover a game and you're shooting highlights and there's a buzzer beater to win the game. That is amazing. But that doesn't happen every time. You got a lot of games that don't happen that way. But with storytelling, you get to dig in. Sometimes you'll get a great tip. Sometimes you just stumble into it on your own. I got very lucky with a couple stories where I did very little to find out about it. It just kind of fell in your lap. But when someone trusts you with their story, because that's a big part of it too, is you need to find a subject who is willing to open up. When they trust you and you deliver and you put it out there in a way that they appreciate and understands that you paid attention, you cared, you crafted the details of it. And for me, that meant the writing, the sound bites, all of the work behind the camera, making sure you get the visuals to support that. That is an amazing feeling when you can do someone's story justice. And if you look back on the things I accomplished in sports, the awards and the recognition I got, it wasn't for being the best anchor or for doing good highlights. It was for feature stories. It was for sharing the story of Coach Donnelly at St. Francis, or Isaiah Story up in Angola, or the Special Olympics program in Auburn. It's honing in on those things and just doing your best to make other people understand how amazing that journey is.
Well, we have your list of accolades. Yes. Here, impress yourself. I won't go into them, but I love the way you're saying that, because can you think of one of your favorite stories that you were able to help elevate?
The standout story of my career has to be, we did a feature story. It was myself and a former coworker, Daniel Beals, incredible talent behind the camera, really helped me on a lot of my big stories. With Ashlyn Heller, who is a Special Olympics athlete in DeKalb County. And she had gone to the national competition in Florida and won a few medals, including a gold in a sprinting event. During the training leading up to that, and I don't remember exactly on the timeline where this happened, but her father died while she was trying to get ready for this. And it kind of obviously threw things off for a while, but she kind of persevered through that, and she raced with her father's ashes and a necklace on her neck. And you could see after she won, she's holding the ashes. And now, having gone through the loss of my own father, I get an added perspective to what courage and what kind of person it takes to do something like that. And I was very fortunate that Ashlyn and her support system trusted me with that story, and just grateful that it was well received and that we were able to do that.
I love it.
There are things that they seem too great to be real, right?
Yeah,
it's something
that's
that
right.
might be cut by a Hollywood script for being a little bit too cheesy or unbelievable, but this stuff happens. These moments do happen, and that's why sports can be such a beautiful conduit for the human experience, because without sports, things like that wouldn't happen in the course of our day-to-day lives.
So I want to talk a little bit about your role on I guess I'd say the media side, the meaning like media buys and things like that. So one of the things, obviously I've been around that stuff my whole career, right? So we do the creative, work with the media agency, and we figure it out. And what are you seeing as far as mistakes that these companies are making when it comes to media?
The strategy can never be just let's throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Exactly.
And I think one of the biggest problems that you see a lot of people make is getting away from storytelling. And it's all cyclical in our discussion here, but if your promotion or advertising is all just focused on, hey, these are the features we have, or these are the products we're selling, or these are the services we provide, that's not going to be memorable because everybody's doing that.
Right.
You want to have a story out there, and that's where I felt like a lot of my skills could transfer over to this, is you have 30 seconds, you have 15 seconds, you have a still image. What sort of story you're going to tell, and how is it going to be memorable?
Yep.
Because people are flooded with advertising everywhere they go throughout their day. You need to do something that's going to, even if it's not retained on the first or second attempt, that just chips away a little bit and leaves something there.
So how much of your role on that side of the business is about education?
It depends. I mean, you get the whole range of people who've never really dipped their toes into marketing at all, and you have people who've had decades of experience and have tried other things and are giving you a shot to prove yourself. So sometimes those initial meetings are a lot of, hey, these are the things that we're capable of doing. People see 21 Alive and they think, okay, you guys do TV commercials. Yeah, but we also do 100 other things.
Right.
And if you want to grow your brand digitally, or you have a target audience that you really want to hit online, well, then we need to dive into some different tactics. Maybe TV is not right for you. If you're a small business operating in, let's say, just Huntington, nowhere else, if you're going to spend all of your dollars on TV and hitting 90% of an audience that's not close enough to you, that might not be the way to do it either.
Well, and I think with you guys, at least in my conversations with Chris Fidel over there, it sounds like you guys have national media buying power, right?
On the digital side, yeah, we can do, if you want to go advertise in LA right now, we can do that. That is no problem. Gray has it was 114 stations before the recent acquisition. So I think we're probably around 117 or more TV stations throughout the country. So
get out of here.
It's pretty easy to get into different markets if those goals are where we need to be. But then there's a lot of clients too that say, hey, I just need to advertise in Allen County, and that's fine too.
What are some of the crazier stories? We've touched on the touchy-feely heart stuff,
the one we're asking
the
about.
emotional stuff. What are some of those buzzer beaters or those crazy stories that you've been involved with?
I think the most bizarre moment of my career, I believe this was in 2017, and you may remember this, Brice. I took a 20-second video at Parkview Field of a dog delivering water to umpires. And that video clip has been seen tens of millions, maybe more. I don't know what the numbers would be at now, but it just blew up where I tagged the right account on Twitter and she sent it to her followers, and it became this thing where ESPN's asking for it and BuzzFeed's asking for it and like international news organizations are asking for it. And I just thought it was a cute video of Jake the Diamond Dog. I just thought, okay, people might get a kick out of this. And I'm seeing my byline across the country and 21 Alive's name all over the place. And I just thought, okay, this is a weird thing for me to hang my hat on for the highlight of my career. But from a numbers perspective, that video has probably been seen more than all of the rest of my work combined.
Well, okay, that, and can you just please set this up, because I know you're going to give me access to this video file where you got tackled on camera.
Oh, yeah. So we were doing a promo for our high school football show on Friday nights called The Score. And I love our creative team. They had this very fun idea to make it like a drill.
Somebody had it in for you, man.
A boot camp. No, I'll get to that.
Okay.
It was, the idea is that we're a boot camp and we're like getting ready for the season by doing this training. It was Dean Pantazzi, Chris Ryan, and myself going through this. I think we shot it at Carroll. And someone had the idea of like, oh, Zach, do you want to get like tackled during the commercial? And
Was this Dean's idea?
It was not Dean's idea.
Yeah.
But I'm a team player. Sure,
Yeah.
I'll do it. I didn't really think much of it. I've played plenty of pickup football. I've been hit many times. It's not a big deal. And I didn't specify who should hit me or didn't know who should hit me. So we get there, and high school football players can range in size and ability.
Oh, yeah.
And the first person to show up to practice that day was a senior linebacker who I would guess probably 6'2", 215, somewhere in that ballpark. I know he was going to play Division I, believe at Dayton. And I'm a man of my word. I'm not going to say, oh, well, no, don't let him hit me. Mm-hmm. So I did it, and thankfully I avoided injury. I think if he'd hit me just a smidge higher, he probably would have broken a rib. But you could see and definitely hear on the raw video just the impact.
It was real, man.
And we had these prop cameras that we were holding as we were going through our boot camp. It was a real camera, but it was like just an old, someone got it at a Goodwill or something for $5. That thing shattered when I hit the ground. The camera basically exploded. So thankfully it wasn't one of our actual cameras that we used.
Yeah.
Of course, you'll want to show that on this show, right?
Yeah, I'll get you the video clips. I'm sure I have behind-the-scenes ones on my phone, but we'll find it. We'll get it to you.
Oh, my God.
That
awesome.
was Emmy nominated. We didn't win for that. I think we lost to either the Cleveland Cavaliers or some much larger professional sports organization.
Whoever they are.
Yeah. But I am officially an Emmy-nominated stuntman because of that.
Nice.
Really?
Yes.
Do you miss covering sports? I mean, because
totally.
I know I get the itch every once in a while of wanting to go out on a Friday night and be out there and be amongst the people and be amongst the energy, because a lot of people around here know the energy that a Friday night at a football field or in a basketball gym around here can provide, just because of the passion for high school sports around here. So I imagine you still want to feel that every so often. Oh,
totally. It is weird going from having that be such a fundamental part of your life and your work for a decade to just not doing it at all.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to say just pop in every now, maybe a few times a season kind of thing. Like tonight, as we're recording this, the Comets have a playoff game tonight. It's weird knowing that and saying, oh, well, I'm not getting ready for some live shots or pregame interviews or not climbing up to the crow's nest to shoot video. So I do miss plenty of that, but the trade-off has been so good in terms of having more time with my family and having a job that doesn't randomly require me to show up 5 hours early to make sure that I cover whatever the event of the day is. So I'm at peace with my decision, but there's still stuff you miss.
Is there any like specific environment, game that you look back on and saying like, I can't believe I was a part of this? Because I loved having the multiple times to go down to the state finals for football, basketball.
It's awesome when our local team wins.
Yeah,
right?
or track. Even like one of my favorites was just to go cover the track state finals at IU every single year, just because it's so many people that are just there all the time. There's always something going on. It's constant action. And is there any environment even at a state level or here locally that is something that you remember being a part of and you're like, oh man, this is awesome?
Being on the ice after the Comets won the Kelly Cup was pretty cool. All those state championships where our teams won were great. To just be, you're standing on an NBA court talking to these kids who just had an experience that might be one of the greatest moments of their lifetime, and you get to be there for that, and you get to kind of share in that joy and ask people about these amazing accomplishments they did with a group of people. That's always a special feeling. And yeah, being at an NFL stadium to cover a state championship is pretty cool. There's no way to spin that as a negative. Right. What the bummer is, you go to Thanksgiving and then you have to get in the car and say, bye, Mom, I got to hit the road because I got to be at Lucas Oil Stadium at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Right.
That's the trade-off in real time, kind of showing I don't miss holidays anymore, which is awesome. Throughout my career, there were times where you just said, okay, I'm not going to be at Thanksgiving the next few years. That's just what it is. And it is nice to not have to worry about that.
You've been at 21 since 2016?
Yep,
February
right? 2016.
Okay. What is the biggest lesson you've learned in the last 10 years about your career?
That's so good.
And with that, I'll just add this to it. What advice would you give?
To anyone in sports specifically, I would say you will go as far as your storytelling ability, especially in the environment that we have now. You can't just be someone who's flashy and does highlights well. People want to see your ability to connect, to take what is a sport that would appeal to X percentage of the audience and turn that into a story that appeals to most, if not all, the audience. You got to be able to get to the human element of it. There's a lot of different ways to go about it, but if you can't capture stories and take that to people, that's going to severely limit how far you can go.
Kind of sticking on that vein as far as advice and things like that, is there anything throughout your career that you wish somebody would have told you? Or as you think back, what you'd tell your younger self?
The path is never going to look anything like you expect. I think that's the biggest thing.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah, because I never would have thought that I would have gone from Naperville to Charlotte, which is a top 25 market, to Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
But I learned when I was in Charlotte that I met some amazing people, worked with some amazing people out there. It was tough being that far away from home. It really was for me. So getting back to Fort Wayne to be within a car ride to all of my family and my closest friends was huge. And then you get here. My plan was to be here for 3 years. It's not what happened.
Rapid wrap-up questions. These are supposed to be either or quick to the mind. Are you more of a lake person or a hiking person?
Lake.
Any particular lakes around Northeast Indiana or back in Naperville?
Hannah's uncle has a little spot on Big Long Lake.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, if you're familiar.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
It's fun going up there during the summer.
All right, we'll see you there.
All right.
We'll be great.
Would you rather see a show at the Embassy or a concert at the Clyde?
I'd say concert, but I wouldn't be opposed to either.
Okay. Comets, Tin Caps, or Fort Wayne FC?
I think Tin Caps.
Uh-oh.
But I'd say Comet playoff game over anything. But if we're talking just any game, I'd say Tin Caps. FC, we'll see over time. I'm not there yet with them, but it's still a great experience.
Yeah. For you, a programmatic or a remnant buy?
Programmatic.
Yes. I stacked the deck on
There
that.
we
Yeah,
go.
there you
That
go.
was one
Check.
he threw in there, yeah.
Yeah, that was, I think, Zach, I can't thank you enough for coming in, man.
This is cool. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like this on the other side, because we don't do long-form storytelling on TV very often, especially not 40 minutes. You just don't have the opportunity. So a long story would be like 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Congratulations on all your success. And I got to tell you, I've really enjoyed working around you, and we're going to work out this week that I'm working more with you guys. But outstanding guy, and so glad to have you on the show.
Hey, it's been awesome to meet you, hear your ridiculous stories, and see this just remarkable. Crazy is not the right word, but a very layered person. You know, it's like ogres and onions. They have layers. You have layers, sir.
I knew it was going to get to Shrek somehow.
You did?
What? And that will kill the show.
Okay.
Thanks again, bud. Great having you.
Good to be here.